James Wilson sat quietly in the corner of Skyway Airline's exclusive Diamond Lounge at Heathrow Airport. The soft leather chair did little to comfort him as he felt dozens of eyes watching his every move. Despite wearing his best charcoal suit and crisp blue tie, he couldn't shake the feeling of being an unwelcome guest at an exclusive party. Emma stood behind the marble reception desk, her blonde hair pulled back tightly, her blue eyes narrowing as James approached. He had shown his platinum membership card twice already, but she acted as if it might be fake. "I'll need to see some additional identification, sir," Emma said, her smile never reaching her eyes. "We've had issues with unauthorized access recently." James calmly reached for his wallet again. At 45, he had built Wilson Capital Partners from his tiny flat in East London to offices in Canary Wharf. The firm now managed over £3 billion in investments. Yet here he was, being treated like a common thief. "Here's my passport and business card as well," James said, keeping his voice steady. Years of business negotiations had taught him never to show frustration, even when it burned inside. Emma examined his documents with excessive care, typing something into her computer. "Please wait while I verify this with my manager." James nodded and stepped aside. Not 30 seconds later, a white man in a slightly rumpled suit approached. Emma's face transformed instantly into warm welcome. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson." "So lovely to see you again. Your usual table by the window is ready. Would you like the Times or the Telegraph today? No ID check, no suspicious glances." James watched the scene unfold with a familiar heaviness in his chest. It was a story as old as time, yet it still hurt every single time. Peter, the lounge manager, finally emerged from a back office. He was short with thinning hair and a permanent frown. He studied James from head to toe before speaking. "Mr. Wilson, we need to maintain certain standards in our Diamond Lounge. Our members expect a particular atmosphere." James understood the hidden message. He didn't fit their image of who belonged here. "I've been a Diamond member for 6 years," James replied calmly. "I fly with Skyway at least twice monthly for business." Peter cleared his throat. "Yes, well, our system shows some irregularities with your account. We'll need to make a few calls." James checked his watch. His flight to New York wouldn't leave for another 2 hours. "So that's fine, I'll wait." He returned to his corner seat, pulling out his phone. A text from his assistant, Lucy, appeared on screen. "Atlantic Airways shareholders approved merger proposal. Final banking approval next week. Congrats." James looked up thoughtfully. The Skyway Atlantic merger had been front-page news for weeks, a £10 billion deal that would create Europe's largest airline group. What Emma and Peter didn't know was that James's firm controlled a significant portion of the financing through their banking partnerships. He opened his email and found the latest merger documents. Wilson Capital held leverage over nearly 30% of the financing structure. Without their approval, the entire deal would collapse. A young black woman with a first-class ticket entered the lounge. James watched as she received the same cold treatment. Her shoulders dropped slightly as Peter insisted on verifying her ticket. Another white businessman walked in behind her, receiving immediate smiles and offers of champagne. James's phone buzzed again. His banking partner needed his signature on the final approval documents for the Skyway merger by Friday. An older staff member named Thomas brought James a cup of tea without him asking. There was kindness in his eyes and an apologetic smile. "Been traveling with us long, sir?" he asked quietly. 6 years, James replied, though some days it feels much longer. Thomas nodded knowingly. "Some things change slowly, don't they, sir?" As Thomas walked away, James made a decision. He wouldn't create a scene or demand apologies. That wasn't his style. Instead, he would use the power he had built over 20 years to create real change. He opened his laptop and began typing an email to his executive team. The subject line read, "Skyway Atlantic merger, new conditions required." As James typed, he felt a calm determination replace his earlier frustration. This wasn't just about one bad experience or personal revenge. It was about using his position to ensure no one else would sit in this lounge feeling like they didn't belong. The merger documents would need amendments, significant ones. By the time he boarded his flight to New York, James had outlined a comprehensive plan that would transform Skyway's corporate culture from the inside out. The billions they needed from his firm would come with conditions they never expected. Emma glanced over at him occasionally, still suspicious. Peter avoided his section of the lounge entirely. Neither realized that the man they had humiliated was about to change the future of their company forever. James watched the lounge carefully from his corner seat, sipping his tea slowly. The pattern became clearer with each passing minute. White travelers breezed through with warm smiles and quick service. Everyone else faced questions, delays, and suspicious looks. A young black man in a sharp navy suit approached the reception desk. His name badge read William Taylor from London Business Solutions. Emma's smile tightened as she examined his first-class ticket and lounge access pass. "I'll need to verify this with my manager," she said loudly enough for others to hear. "These passes are sometimes misused." William stood patiently, his face a careful mask that James recognized all too well, the practiced calm of someone used to such treatment. Meanwhile, 3 white businessmen entered and were immediately shown to the best seats by the window. After 5 uncomfortable minutes, Peter finally appeared to inspect William's credentials. James watched him make a show of calling someone to confirm William's membership status. The young man's shoulders tensed, but his expression remained neutral. When Thomas walked by with a tray of drinks, James gestured him over. "That young man seems to be having the same experience I had," James said quietly. Thomas glanced around to make sure no one was listening. At 65, his silver hair and kind eyes gave him an air of quiet dignity. He lowered his voice. "Been here 15 years, sir. Started when this was still British Airways Lounge. Some managers have preferences about who belongs in premium spaces." "Have people complained?" James asked. Thomas nodded sadly. "Many times. Complaints disappear. Nothing changes. The higher-ups either don't know or don't care." He paused. "Probably both." "And the staff who treat people this way?" "Get promoted," Thomas replied simply, before moving on to serve other guests. James opened his phone and began taking notes, documenting times, names, and specific incidents. William was finally allowed into the lounge, looking relieved but shaken. James noticed him choosing a corner seat similar to his own, less visible, less likely to draw attention. During the next hour, James made several discreet phone calls. He stepped outside the lounge for privacy, speaking in low, measured tones. "Lucy, I need everything we have on the Skyway Atlantic merger. Financial structures, voting rights, approval timelines, everything." His assistant's voice was crisp and efficient. "The merger committee meets next Tuesday. Final paperwork needs all approvals by Friday the following week. Our firm controls almost 30% of the financing through various holdings." "And the leadership team at Skyway? I want names, backgrounds, contact information." "Sending it all now, sir. Is everything all right?" James watched as another traveler of color was questioned extensively at the entrance. "Not yet," he said, "but it will be." Rather than causing a scene that would be quickly forgotten, James spent the remaining hour meticulously documenting everything he witnessed. 6 more travelers experienced discriminatory treatment. Each incident was noted with precise details. The next morning, back in his London office overlooking the Thames, James gathered his executive team. The glass-walled conference room fell silent as he described what he had witnessed. Robert Davidson, his financial director for 15 years, studied the merger documents spread across the polished table. "The merger absolutely needs our approval," Robert confirmed, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Without Wilson Capital's backing, the whole deal collapses." Mark Thompson, head of legal affairs, nodded in agreement. "We can add conditions to our approval, legally binding ones." James walked to the window, looking out at the city he loved. He had built his success through careful strategy and patience. Being loud and angry rarely solved problems. Real change required leverage and planning. "I'm not interested in compensation or public apologies," James said, turning back to face his team. "Those things change nothing. I want systematic transformation." "What exactly do you have in mind?" asked Rebecca Jones, his chief operations officer. James smiled slightly. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation with Skyway about customer service, the kind that leads to real action, not just empty promises." He outlined his plan carefully. They would not simply demand diversity training, those programs often changed little. Instead, they would require a complete restructuring of Skyway's customer service approach, with measurable outcomes tied directly to the merger financing. If they want our money, they'll need to earn it, James concluded. And earning it means treating every customer with dignity, regardless of what they look like. As the meeting ended, Robert lingered behind. This could delay the merger, James. The shareholders won't be happy. Some things matter more than quick profits, James replied. This is one of them. He picked up the phone to arrange a meeting with Skyway's executive team. The next few days would determine whether a powerful company would truly change or lose billions because they couldn't see past the color of their customers' skin. The glass tower of Skyway Airlines headquarters gleamed in the morning sun as James Wilson entered the building. The security guard checked his appointment details with extra care before allowing him to proceed to the top floor. James noticed, but said nothing. The boardroom offered a stunning view of London, with the Thames snaking through the city below. 8 executives sat around a large oval table, their faces a mix of curiosity and mild annoyance at the unexpected meeting. Oliver Matthews, Skyway's chief executive, rose to greet James. He was tall, with silver hair, and the confident smile of a man used to getting his way. The other executives remained seated, checking their phones or whispering to each other. "Mr. Wilson, we're delighted to have your investment support for our merger," said Oliver, with a practiced smile. "Though I'm not quite clear on why you wanted this urgent meeting, we have all the paperwork ready for signatures." James placed a plain blue folder on the polished table. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Before we move forward, I spent 4 hours in your Diamond Lounge at Heathrow last Tuesday. I'd like to share my experience and those of several other travelers I observed." Oliver's smile faltered slightly. "Customer experience? Surely that's something our service team could handle. Was there a problem with your flight?" "Not with the flight," James replied calmly. "Please, just give me 30 minutes of your time." Mary Parker, the head of customer experience, a woman in her 50s with a tight ponytail and sharp eyes, leaned forward. "Of course, Mr. Wilson. Customer feedback is very valuable to us." For the next half hour, the room grew increasingly uncomfortable. As James methodically described what he had witnessed, he read from his detailed notes, providing exact times, staff names, and specific interactions. His voice remained steady as he described how he and 6 other travelers had been treated differently, based solely on their appearance. "Emma Whitfield questioned my membership status twice and insisted on manager verification. 3 minutes later, a white businessman entered and was welcomed immediately without any verification. This pattern repeated consistently over 4 hours. Several executives shifted in their seats. George Thompson, the finance director, checked his watch repeatedly. Only Barbara Lewis, the youngest executive present, appeared genuinely troubled by James's account. "I spoke with Thomas, who has worked in your lounge for 15 years, James continued. He confirmed this discriminatory treatment is standard practice. He also confirmed that complaints about such treatment regularly disappear without action. Mary Parker cleared her throat. "Mr. Wilson, this must be a misunderstanding. Perhaps our staff were having a difficult day. Heathrow can be quite stressful." "This wasn't one difficult day," James interrupted gently. "Your own staff member confirmed this is standard practice." "We can certainly offer you compensation," Mary continued. "Perhaps lifetime lounge access, or I'm not interested in compensation. I'm interested in real change." Oliver Matthews spread his hands. "Mr. Wilson, while we value your feedback, I'm still not clear why this required an urgent meeting with our entire executive team." James nodded slowly. "That's fair, let me be clearer." He opened another folder. "As you know, my investment firm, Wilson Capital Partners, manages significant financial holdings. What you may not know is that we control nearly 30% of the banking consortium financing your merger with Atlantic Airways." The room fell silent. George Thompson's face paled visibly. "I cannot in good conscience support a company with these practices," James said quietly. "The merger approval deadline is next Friday. Without our backing, the deal collapses. Oliver's professional mask slipped for a moment, showing anger beneath. Mr. Wilson, are you threatening our merger over a customer service complaint? Not threatening, James replied evenly. I'm explaining my position, and this isn't a complaint about cold coffee or a delayed flight. This is about systematic discrimination affecting countless travelers daily. Barbara Lewis spoke for the first time. He's right. I've heard similar reports before, but they never reached this level. Why didn't you address them? James asked her directly. She looked down. They were classified as individual incidents, not worthy of executive attention. James turned back to the group. I'm here to offer a solution, not ultimatums. I believe Skyway can become an industry leader in inclusive customer experience, but that requires genuine commitment to change. The tension in the room was thick enough to touch. Billions of pounds and thousands of jobs hung in the balance. The executives exchanged worried glances as they realized the true purpose of the meeting. What exactly do you want? Oliver finally asked, his voice notably less confident. James smiled slightly. A conversation about what real change looks like and how we might achieve it together. The meeting that was supposed to last 30 minutes extended to 3 hours as James outlined his vision for transformation, not just in the lounges, but throughout Skyway's entire customer experience. The airline executives exchanged worried glances as James positioned his laptop on the table. Oliver Matthews, the CEO, loosened his tie slightly, while Finance Director George Thompson whispered urgently to Mary Parker beside him. The air in the boardroom felt heavy with tension. I've developed a comprehensive plan, James explained, opening his presentation. It's not just about fixing what happened to me. It's about transforming your entire company culture. The screen displayed a detailed outline showing staff training programs on unconscious bias, new accountability measures, including anonymous customer feedback systems, and clear penalties for discriminatory behavior. Each slide showed careful research and planning. This would be extremely expensive, protested George, running a hand through his thinning hair. The training alone would cost millions. Our shareholders expect profit growth this quarter, not new expenses. Your shareholders will lose considerably. More if the merger fails, James responded calmly. £10 billion and your company's future growth are at stake. I'm offering to personally oversee these changes as a condition for my continued support. The room fell silent as the executives absorbed the full meaning of his words. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a requirement for the merger to proceed. Other companies have successfully implemented similar programs, James continued, showing examples from hotel chains and competing airlines. Customer loyalty increased by 23% at worldwide hotels. Staff turnover dropped by 30% at Pacific Airlines. These changes aren't just morally right, they're good business. Barbara Lewis, the youngest executive with TTG, short brown hair and determined eyes, leaned forward. I've experienced similar treatment myself as a woman in business, she said, ignoring Oliver's warning glance. The first time I arrived for a board meeting at my previous company, security asked if I was the new secretary. Being unwelcome isn't just uncomfortable, it drives talented people away. She turned to her colleagues. I believe Mr. Wilson is offering us an opportunity, not a threat. This could actually strengthen our brand. James smiled at her understanding. Exactly, this isn't about revenge, it's about progress. Every person who flies with you deserves to be treated with the same respect, regardless of what they look like. The presentation moved to implementation timelines. James had thought of everything, from hiring outside consultants to establishing new management positions dedicated to inclusive customer experience. And the costs? George asked weakly. Less than 1% of your annual profits, James answered. A small price for protecting a £10 billion merger and your company's reputation. Oliver Matthews cleared his throat, the lines on his face deeper than before. We'll need time to consider this. The board will have questions. The merger paperwork needs signatures by Friday, James reminded them gently. You have until then to decide meaningful change or finding new financing. He closed his laptop, placed it in his leather briefcase, and stood. I believe Skyway can become a leader in inclusive customer service, but that change must be real and lasting, not just words on paper. As he prepared to leave, Barbara handed him her business card. "I'd like to talk more about implementation details," she said quietly. "If they agree," James nodded. "I hope they will." Oliver walked him to the elevator, his earlier warmth replaced by stiff formality. "You've given us much to think about, Mr. Wilson." "That was my intention," James replied simply. As he descended in the glass elevator, James could see the executives still in the boardroom, gesturing animatedly. Whether they agreed to his terms or not, the conversation about discrimination at Skyway Airlines had finally reached the people with power to change it. Outside, the spring sunshine felt warmer somehow. James loosened his tie and took a deep breath. For 20 years, he had built his business carefully, focusing on profits and growth. Today, he had used that power for something more important. His phone buzzed with a message from Lucy. "How did it go?" "We'll see," James typed back, "but whatever happens, I said what needed saying." As he walked toward the underground station, James felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. Whether they agreed or not, he had stood up not just for himself, but for everyone who'd ever been made to feel they didn't belong. That alone felt like victory. 6 months later, James Wilson walked through the sliding glass doors of Heathrow Airport. The familiar sounds of announcements and rolling suitcases filled the air, but something felt different today. His heart beat a little faster as he approached the Diamond Lounge entrance, wondering what he would find. The difference hit him immediately. The reception desk now featured a large sign reading "Welcome Diamond Members" in multiple languages. The staff wore new blue uniforms with small silver pins that read "Respect First" in elegant lettering. A young woman with a warm smile greeted him. "Good morning, sir. May I see your membership card, please?" James presented his platinum card. The woman scanned it quickly and handed it back with the same respectful smile she had given the white businessman ahead of him. "Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Please enjoy your visit with us today." As James entered the lounge, he noticed the changed atmosphere immediately. Travelers of all backgrounds chatted comfortably in plush seats. The staff moved among them, offering the same attentive service to everyone. "Mr. Wilson," called a familiar voice. "Wonderful to see you again." James turned to find William Taylor approaching with an outstretched hand. The young man who had faced similar discrimination 6 months ago now wore a manager's badge on his lapel. "William," James smiled, shaking his hand firmly. "This is quite a change." "Thanks to you," William replied. "I was hired as part of a new management team 3 months ago. Emma and Peter. They chose to leave rather than adapt to the new policies." William led James to a comfortable seat by the window. "The best spot in the house. Can I bring you some tea?" The merger between Skyway and Atlantic Airways had proceeded under James's conditions. Every element of his plan had been implemented, from the top executives down to the frontline staff. Those who couldn't embrace the new culture had left. Many others welcomed the change. Thomas, the elderly staff member who had shown James kindness, now trained new employees. He caught James's eye from across the room and gave a small nod of appreciation. James's phone buzzed with a message. He smiled, seeing Barbara Lewis's name. After standing up at that crucial meeting, she had been promoted to the newly created position of Head of Inclusive Customer Experience. Passenger satisfaction scores up 40%. Staff turnover down 35%. You were right. Treating people with dignity is good business. James had done more than just change one airline. With a portion of his investment profits, he had established the Dignity Foundation, working to address discrimination across the entire travel industry. Already 3 other major airlines had adopted similar programs after seeing Skyway's success. "Your tea, sir," said a young staff member, placing a steaming cup on the table beside him. "Thank you," James replied. "How long have you worked here?" "Just started last month," the man answered. "Best job I've ever had. They actually care how we treat people here." As the staff member walked away, James noticed Oliver Matthews, Skyway's CEO, entering the lounge with several business associates. The man spotted James and hesitated briefly before walking over. "Mr. Wilson," Oliver said, extending his hand. "I didn't expect to see you today." "Just checking on my investment," James replied with a small smile. Oliver nodded. "A wise investment it was. Our customer satisfaction ratings are the highest in the industry. Bookings are up 12% since the merger. And the changes we discussed? Working better than I expected, Oliver admitted. I was skeptical at first. Most people are, James said, until they see the results. After Oliver left, James sat back and watched the lounge in operation. Every traveler received the same respectful welcome, the same quality service. It wasn't perfect, no business ever is, but the transformation was remarkable. His phone buzzed again. Lucy had sent him an article about another major travel company adopting the Dignity Foundation's guidelines. The ripples were spreading further. James smiled as he sipped his tea. Sometimes the greatest power wasn't in causing pain to those who hurt you, but in transforming systems so the hurt couldn't continue. He hadn't sought revenge or public shaming. He had demanded meaningful change and used his position to ensure it happened. His quiet stand had created ripples that would benefit countless travelers who would never know his name. And that, James thought as he watched a diverse group of passengers being welcomed warmly into the lounge, was the greatest success of all.